Hello everyone, my name is Elsa. I also go by Eco Elsa. I'm going to be the instructor this week for your guys' gym game. We are going to be playing one of my favorite games called Instincts for Survival, but it has quite a few rules. So I want to make sure we're all ready to play. That way when class starts next week, we will have as little time as possible spent doing a refresh on game rules. So some big things to keep in mind is it is an outdoor game. It is a big giant outdoor tag game. So this means please make sure to be dressed for the weather. It's always easier to take off a layer than it is to add a layer on if it's going to be cooler. As well as please wear closed-toed shoes. It is a game that really needs tennis shoes, running shoes for it. Now, let's get into the game rules. So for starters, this is a game that's going to be teaching us about how animals survive between hunting and prey and predator type relations. So there's a couple of different techniques that animals use that you might be able to use for the game. For starters, being sneaky, being fast, or having endurance and stamina to just keep running even as people are chasing you are going to be really great things for this game. But there's lots of different techniques for winning it and lots of different skills. The biggest thing I want to keep in mind is that while it is a tag game, this means we are going to be tagging, not any other kind of touch, okay? It's going to be played between three different groups of children. At the top, we're going to have our carnivores. This is going to be our red team. They will have one life chip. Our secondary consumers are going to be our omnivores. This is going to be our blue team. They will each have two life chips. And at the bottom, we will have our herbivores. They are going to be our green team, so they're not going to have any markings on them. They'll just be wearing whatever t-shirts and jackets they brought, while the other two teams will be having pennies or bandanas. And our herbivores will have three life chips. Now, just like our food web, if you look over here at this photo, up here at the top, we're going to have our carnivores. Below, we're going to have our omnivores. And then the final row before plants, we're going to have our herbivores. So carnivores eat omnivores and omnivores eat herbivores, but carnivores can also eat herbivores. However, you cannot eat up. So that means the people who are going to be doing the most taking are going to be our carnivores, who only can get their food through these other two teams by collecting life chips. And our omnivores can choose either to take an herbivore to get food or they can forage. Now, as I mentioned before, there's going to be foraging. So around the field, there are going to be short orange cones that are hiding different colored tokens and chips underneath them. Now, these are not edible chips, they're poker chips, and they come in a couple of different colors. There's going to be green and black chips that are food, and that's going to be for the herbivores, as well as the omnivores, who can choose to either forage for the green and black food chips or take an herbivore for a life chip. Everyone, however, is going to be needing to forage for blue water chips, which are going to be our water. Our carnivores, however, only can get food by taking other kids. So that means they can take herbivores, they can take omnivores, but they need those life chips so that way they get enough food to survive. But they still are going to need to forage for water. They are not going to get everything they need just by taking other players. So keep in mind, even if you are a carnivore, you still need to make sure you forage for enough water. As I mentioned before, green and black food chips are going to be our food, and they're going to be hidden under cones, as well as there will be blue water chips hidden under cones as well. And lastly, our red and white chips are going to be the life chips that players will be carrying with them. Now, big thing when it comes to these cones is if I come up to a cone and there is a ton of food, a ton of water chips, I cannot take all of them. I can only take one chip under a cone. And I cannot come back to that same cone until I've gone to a different cone or somewhere else on our playing field. Now, for our playing field, it's going to be marked with red string and flagging to help mark boundaries and hazards, as well as orange cones to mark the boundaries. Now, I'm going to have some really big orange cones to make it really easy to see from far away, and that will hopefully help you guys know well in advance when the boundary's coming up, but if not, the closer you get, the more likely you'll be able to see with all the different markings I've put up. As well as our safe rest spot for the game is going to be the cement patio at the back of the church. So that's where everyone's going to be putting down their water, and that's where you can go to take a break if you need one. Now, the biggest things are no going out of the boundary. Now, one of the boundaries we have is along a lake. So this means if you are within touching distance of the lake, if you're within the 5 feet of the lake, you are out of boundary. We do not want to be right next to the lake. We do not want to be hiding there. We don't want to be running there. So if I or any of the other adults see you in this boundary or pass any of the boundaries, you will lose a life chip. So don't use it as part of your strategy. It is not good strategy. It will not pay off. Next thing is if someone tagged you, they tagged you. We're not going to be arguing about tagging. It's part of the game. If they tagged you, it's fine. You have more life chips. So, and there's also more ways to get more life chips that we'll go over in a bit. So if someone tagged you and they said they tagged you, they tagged you. No arguing, give them a life chip, run away. The person who's doing the tagging, just like our food cones, they can't come up and keep tagging the same person over and over and over again. They have to go and tag someone else before they can go and tag the same person again. Lastly, or I shouldn't say lastly, but the next big thing with tagging is no going on pause while someone is chasing you. So how we show that we're going to our rest area is we hold up the letter T. This shows timeout. When I am going to take a break, I am walking, I am having the letter T up, and I'm heading over to our take a break spot. I cannot just throw up the T at any random time and just take a break in the middle of the field. I have to walk and go and reset myself over to our rest spot area. But this also means that if someone is chasing me and I really need a break, would it be fair for me to hold up T and then go on break? Not really. It's not going to be fair. You wouldn't like it if someone did it to you if you were the one chasing them. So here's the deal. If you really need a break and someone's chasing you, just give them a life chip, even if it's your last one, and go and take a break. Okay? Because if you have no life chips, that means you are now a zombie animal. Now, how you can get back into the game and have a life chip so that way you can keep foraging is you need to go up to one of the adults who are going to be our medics, and you need to ask for a new life chip by answering a question. So the grown-ups, if you're listening and you're going to be helping out, you can ask the kids whatever question you want. Just make sure it's age appropriate. My favorite is doing a lot of counting ones, a lot of addition, subtraction, maybe for some of the older kids, some other harder questions, maybe something you've been learning that week if it's one of your kids, or it's a kid who's in one of your other classes. Whatever it be, just make sure it's age appropriate. And kiddos, if you can't answer it, just get back in line and let the next kid in line for a life token have a shot at the question, okay? Next big thing, however, is that since we have a very large group, we are going to have apex predators. Now, apex predators are going to be grown-ups only. They will for sure be wearing a red penny somewhere on their body, and they can take anyone. So that means carnivores, omnivores, herbivores, anyone. And they can tag them by using a foam football. Now, they can try and run up on you and tag you, but for the most part, what we want them to be trying to do is throw it and hit you below the neck. Now, this means, can you run up and steal the football? No, you cannot touch the football at all. If you touch that football at all, you have now been tagged by the apex predator and you need to give up a life token. So don't try and catch it, just try and duck and run away. And like I said before, they will for sure be wearing a bright red penny. That way you know they are the apex predator.